12 R&B bands, 12 stories that start with sold-out stages, platinum records, and music that followed you everywhere. Every cookout, every slow dance, every ride home when the right song came on at exactly the right moment. But here's what the history books left out. Behind every one of these groups, something happened, something the industry never fully explained. Something that pushed them off the stage before their time was really up. This is what it looks like when a band gets forced out of their own spotlight. Number 12, the S.O.S. Band. Their biggest hit didn't just change their own career. It accidentally destroyed another band's lineup and launched the most powerful production duo in R&B history. Nobody in Atlanta knew any of that was coming. You know the S.O.S. Band from Take Your Time, Do It Right, 1980. 6 weeks at number 1 on the R&B chart. If you were near a radio that summer, you felt it settle into your body in a specific way. That's not a hit single, that's a takeover. And they had every reason to believe the run would continue. By 1983, they were working with 2 musicians out of Minneapolis named Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who were also at the time key members of Prince's side band The Time. Prince had one rule with his people: nobody works outside the group, no exceptions. If Jam and Lewis broke it anyway, because they believed in what they were hearing in the studio. Then a snowstorm hit Atlanta and grounded their flight back to the tour. They missed the show. Prince found out exactly where they'd been and what they'd been doing. He fired both of them from The Time before the night was over. Here's the part that still gets me. The session they were finishing when the blizzard hit, that was Just Be Good to Me. It peaked at number 2 on the R&B chart in 1983 and established Jam and Lewis as the production duo to watch. 3 years after that, they produced Janet Jackson's Control, one of the most important albums of the decade. The S.O.S. Band had accidentally handed the world its greatest production team. And without that creative partnership consistently in their corner going forward, they gradually lost the specific sound and momentum that had made them singular in the first place. A quiet kind of exile dressed up as a natural fade. Number 11, Atlantic Starr. Imagine building something with 8 people over years. Real dedication, consistent R&B hits, a reputation that had been earned the slow way. Then watch 5 of those 8 people walk out the door at the same time. Not because the music had failed, because of what was building quietly underneath the whole time. Atlantic Starr came out of White Plains, New York in the late 70s. Lead singer Sharon Bryant was the kind of voice that held everything together and made everything feel easy. When Love Calls in 1981, Circles in 1982, Touch of 4-Leaf Clover in 1983. These weren't filler. These were real R&B moments people kept. The group was 9 people strong, vocalists, horn players, percussionists, the 3 Lewis brothers at the center, a full breathing organism. David and Wayne Lewis were doing more of the writing, attracting more of the publishing. As the recognition started leaning noticeably in their direction, the fissures formed quietly over years and then cracked all at once. Sharon Bryant left in 1984 for a solo career. 4 other members followed. 5 people gone simultaneously. Here's what makes this story uncomfortable. The Lewis brothers brought in a new lead singer named Barbara Weathers and released As the Band Turns in 1985, and it became their most commercially successful record to date. And they will bring Secret Lovers reached number 3 on the pop chart. Then in 1987, Always hit number 1 on both R&B and pop simultaneously, their absolute commercial peak. And then Barbara Weathers left too, right after Always peaked. The year she delivered their biggest moment, she was already heading toward the door. Atlantic Starr kept recording. They never stopped trying. But the original architecture, the people who had laid every brick of what they became, was gone for good. Real talk, only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 10, Ready for the World? When Oh Sheila dropped in the summer of 1985, something strange immediately happened. People heard it on the radio and assumed Prince wrote it. The voice, the rhythm, the entire feel, it sounded like it came straight out of Minneapolis on a particularly inspired night. Radio stations were getting calls. And here's the story that gets repeated because it's almost too perfect to believe. Sheila itself heard it on the radio and asked Prince when he recorded it. He had to look her in the eye and say, "I didn't write that." Ready for the World came out of Flint, Michigan. 6 guys who grew up together, built their own local following, got turned down by every major label they approached, pressed their own single independently, and convinced record stores in Flint to carry it on faith, and eventually worked their way up to MCA Records. They did it without a blueprint. Oh Sheila hit number 1 on the pop chart, number 1 on the R&B chart, and number 1 on the dance chart in the same cycle. Their debut album went platinum. They had everything you're supposed to need. But that Prince comparison followed them like a second shadow they hadn't asked for and couldn't shake. And Prince in 1985 was not a soft comparison to absorb. He was the most dominant force in popular music at that exact moment. When your biggest hit sounds close enough to confuse the very person it supposedly references, the industry stops hearing you as your own thing. Love You Down hit number 1 R&B in 1986. They kept charting on the soul side through 1991. But the crossover window that Oh Sheila had cracked open never widened again. 6 guys who earned it the hardest possible way and spent years defined by someone else's name. If you know how that feels, you don't need me to add anything to it. Number 9, Midnight Starr. They wrote a song that basically defined what an early 80s dance floor felt like, and a quiet storm anthem that you've slow danced to more times than you've probably counted without ever once thinking about who made it. But here's what eventually stopped them. Not the music, not the audience. A business dispute between a record label and its distributor that the group had absolutely no control over. Midnight Starr formed at Kentucky State University in 1976 around the Calloway brothers, Reggie on trumpet, Vincent on trombone. By 1982, they'd signed with Solar Records and were building something real. Then in 1983, they released No Parking on the Dance Floor. Freakazoid hit number 2 R&B and drove the album to platinum status. Slow Jam became a Quiet Storm standard, the kind of song that announces itself at a late-night gathering and changes the whole temperature of the room without anyone saying a word. They were consistent in a way that doesn't get enough credit. Operator hit number 1 R&B in 1984. Headlines like Curious and Don't Rock the Boat continued the run. Through the mid to late 80s, they kept producing quality records. This was not a group running out of ideas or talent. But in 1990, when they recorded Work It Out, what would be their final Solar Records album, internal problems between the label and their distributor killed the project before it had any chance to breathe. Distribution that never materialized, promotion that never came. The music existed. The audience just never found it because the machinery designed to connect them had broken down for reasons that had nothing to do with the songs. 13 years of recording and touring, label politics won in the end. Some of the group members went on to write and produce hits for Toni Braxton and Shanice, but that version of Midnight Star, that chapter, closed quietly. It didn't have to. Number 8, Shalamar. At the absolute peak of their fame, not on the way down, not fading, but right at the top, 2 of the 3 members walked away. And the reason the public never fully got the story is that what was happening behind closed doors was uglier than a clean breakup ever is. Shalamar came out of the world of Soul Train in 1977. Howard Hewitt, Jody Watley, Jeffrey Daniel, assembled by label creator Dick Griffith. By 1982, their album Friends had gone platinum. A Night to Remember, I Can Make You Feel Good. The Grammy-nominated Dead giveaway. In the UK especially, they were massive. Fashion icons, trendsetters, the exact definition of early 80s R&B cool, but Solar Records was not paying them what they were owed. That's not rumor. Jody Watley said it directly. The label was cutting separate side deals with other members. The royalties weren't coming through, and the creative environment had become, in her own words, toxic and misogynist. And then it got more personal than any of that. When Watley became pregnant, she said she was pressured, not by the father, but by her bandmates in the label, not to have her baby, because it would disrupt the touring schedule. Howard Hewitt reportedly told her that without Shalamar, she would never make it. She left in 1983. Jeffrey Daniel left not long after. In 1988, Jody Watley won the Grammy Award for Best New Artist, solo, on her own terms. And whether you think that vindicated her or just made the whole thing sadder, I'll let you decide. That's a comment worth leaving. The classic lineup of Shalamar never performed together on a live stage again after 1983. Number 7, New Edition. Five kids from the housing projects of Roxbury, Boston, performed at a local talent night in 1982, won a recording contract, and then received a royalty check for a platinum-selling album after number 1 single for $1.87. New Edition's early story is one of the most documented cases of industry exploitation in R&B history. Bobby Brown recently told Shannon Sharpe exactly what they were paid to sign their first deal, $500 and a Betamax VCR. Their royalty checks were, in his words, pennies. They eventually left and signed with MCA, which was better. But the financial wounds from those early years had already shaped how every one of them viewed the people around them. Then in late 1985, Bobby Brown was removed from the group. Nobody has ever fully agreed on exactly how it went. Bobby says he heard through the grapevine that the message passed through so many middlemen, he couldn't even track who delivered it. Ralph Tresvant says Bobby chose to leave. But what's documented is this. Management told the remaining members that if they didn't vote Bobby out, everything the group had built was in jeopardy. 5 childhood friends from the same neighborhood forced to vote against one of their own because someone with a contract over their heads made it a condition of survival. Bobby found out secondhand Ralph Tresvant didn't even participate in the vote. And if you've ever been close enough to someone to build something real with them and then watch the business of it turn that bond into a transaction, you already know what that does to a friendship. Some things don't come back from that, no matter how many reunions happen later. New Edition kept going. Their 1988 Heartbreak album is arguably their best work. Bobby went triple platinum the same year, but something cracked in 1985 that never fully closed. Number 6, Kool and the Gang. Between 1979 and 1987, they had 14 top 40 pop singles. 14. More top 40 hits in that stretch than Michael Jackson. Celebration. Ladies' Night. Get Down on It. Joanna. Fresh Cherish. Victory. Stone Love. That isn't a run. That's a dynasty. And every bit of that commercial peak was built around one voice that the band hadn't even had before 1979. J.T. Taylor joined Kool and the Gang in 1979 when the group was already more than a decade old. They'd been a serious funk band through the 70s, but adding Taylor changed the whole nature of what they were. He brought warmth, soul in a specific texture that the instrumentals had been missing. The group went from respected to beloved, and then they needed 3 people to replace him when he left. Taylor departed in 1988. He later spoke about it with real hurt in his voice. He said band members had claimed he was never truly part of the group. After a decade, after the sold-out tours across 50 cities, after the number ones, after the collaborations, after all of it, they claim I was never really part of the group. I don't know why they'd say that. The 1989 album without him didn't connect. They brought in Skip Martin, Odine Mays, and Gary Brown, 3 vocalists for one man's space, and the momentum they'd built together didn't transfer. Kool and the Gang were finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2024. J.T. Taylor was on that stage with them, and I think about what that night must have felt like. All those years of complicated history standing in the same room again, in front of the people who never stopped loving the music. Some things take a long time to find their proper ending. Number 5, Cameo. He started with 14 people, horn players, percussionists, background singers, a full ensemble. Over the course of nearly a decade, he gradually let most of them go. Then he had the biggest hit of his entire career, after almost everyone who had helped build the foundation was already out the door. Just watch me, I'll show you how. Larry Blackmon founded what would become Cameo in New York City in 1974. Juilliard-trained, a genuine musician's musician who also had an eye for what was coming next. The original lineup was massive, a heavy funk band in the tradition of the Ohio Players and Parliament Funkadelic. They had consistent R&B success through the late 70s and early 80s. Just Wanna Be in 1979. Shake Your Pants in 1980. Old albums, real traction. But Blackman saw where the music was moving. As the Minneapolis sound reshaped R&B and synthesizers started replacing horn sections, he did something most band leaders don't have the nerve to do. He stripped the entire operation back, moved to Atlanta, rebuilt around drum machines, sequenced bass, and his own instinct. By 1984, the lineup was a lean trio: Blackman, Tommy Jenkins, Nathan Lieutenant. She's Strange hit number 1 R&B. Single Life followed in 1985, and in 1986, Word Up hit number 1 R&B and crossed into the pop top 10. The Word Up album went platinum. Cameo was bigger than they had ever been. And here's what stays with me: the iconic red cod piece from the Word Up video. One of the most recognizable images in all of 80s music. Blackman almost didn't wear it. His bandmates dared him into it. He almost said no. The people who spent 10 years building that platform never got to be in that room when the moment finally arrived.
Just right. Stop me. Let out.
Number 4, The System.
I can't take it anymore.
Their own record label didn't think the song should be the first single. Management didn't either. Mike Murphy and David Frank pushed back, argued their case, and won. The song hit number 1 R&B in May 1987 and peaked at number 4 on the pop chart that summer. 2 years after that, the duo quietly separated at the exact moment in time when the world finally knew who they were. The System came out of New York City in 1982. Mike Murphy and David Frank first connected while working for the soul funk band Clear. Murphy was the road manager. Frank was a session keyboardist. Frank didn't even know Murphy could sing until much later.
My heart beats on.
When they finally recorded together, the results were immediate enough that Mirage Records offered them a deal of their own. Their 1983 debut album Sweat launched You Are In My System into the top 10 R&B.
You're in my system. You keep
Robert Palmer covered it and made it a rock crossover. The System were forward-thinking and hard to categorize in the best way. Electronic enough for the clubs, emotional enough for quiet storm radio, never quite sounding like anyone else doing it.
baby, you are in my.
By 1987, Don't Disturb This Groove delivered what they'd been building toward. Their label and management had been wrong about the song. Murphy and Frank had been right. Number 1 R&B album. The single itself spent a week at the top of the R&B chart and crossed into the pop top 5.
You are lived for.
Their 1989 album, Rhythm and Romance, was their last. They parted ways professionally without any public fallout that ever became documented. No dramatic ending, just a quiet uncoupling right when the window was widest.
It'll take some time, but you know.
David Frank later wrote Christina Aguilera's Genie in a Bottle in 1999, one of the biggest singles of that year. The talent never went anywhere. The partnership just stopped. Number 3, LeVert. Their father, Eddie LeVert, had spent decades as a member of one of the greatest soul groups of all time. He watched his sons build something real from the ground up, carry his name into a new generation, and take it all the way. And then he had to stand at both of their funerals. LeVert formed in Cleveland in 1984.
Time is so much better spent, baby.
Gerald, Sean, and Mark LeVert. Gerald and Sean were Eddie LeVert's boys from the OJs, carrying that lineage with full knowledge of what it meant. In 1987, Casanova hit #1 R&B and crossed into the pop top 5. It was everywhere that year. And if you've ever been anywhere near a party in the late 80s, you already know what that song does to a room the moment it starts.
How much I need you.
They weren't a flash, they were a career. I'm still followed. Consistent charting through the early 90s. Gerald, in particular, built a reputation as one of the most credible voices in R&B across multiple decades. Solo work, collaborations, producing for other artists. And the silence came the way it always comes for this family, sudden and all at once. Gerald LeVert died on November 10th, 2006. He was 40 years old. The official cause was accidental toxicity from a combination of prescription medications, a preventable death.
I'll get down on my knees for you, baby.
Sean LeVert died on May 30th, 2008. He was 39. He was being held in a Cuyahoga County jail on a civil warrant related to child support. He told officials he wasn't feeling well. They did not respond. He was found unresponsive in his cell. He did not have to die there. Eddie LeVert attended both funerals. I won't try to put language around that. Some of you feel this one in a different place than the others. And if you do, you already know why without me explaining it.
Baby, baby, baby. And when I told you.
Number 2, the Gap Band. Charlie Wilson was sleeping on the streets of Hollywood Boulevard. The man who sang Outstanding, the man whose band's drum break Dave Grohl said was the direct inspiration for the opening of Smells Like Teen Spirit, sleeping in alleys and bushes on Hollywood Boulevard from 1993 to 1995, 130 pounds. The Gap Band was Charlie, Ronnie, and Robert Wilson, 3 brothers from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who named their group for 3 streets in their hometown, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. Those streets hold one of the most significant addresses in African American history. Between 1980 and 1989, the Gap Band put out hit after hit after hit. Burn Rubber on Me, Early in the Morning. You Dropped a Bomb on Me, Outstanding, Party Train. Charlie Wilson's voice was its own category, rawer than Luther, more grounded than Rick James, entirely his own. But when the brothers tried to renegotiate for a fair share of what they'd earned, their manager responded not by negotiating, but by going to the industry and running interference, threatening promoters, blacklisting the group. Charlie Wilson described it plainly. Everywhere we went, he ran interference. He threatened people. Relationships between the brothers deteriorated under the financial pressure, and as everything fell apart, Charlie fell deeper into cocaine and alcohol. When his cousin ran into him on the street in the early 90s, she broke down crying at the sight of him. He didn't recognize how far gone he was because he'd stopped looking in mirrors. What brought him back? A social worker named Mahan, who he met in rehabilitation, who he married in 1995, who he credits with the fact that he's still alive. Charlie Wilson has been sober since 1995, got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2024, but that man slept on cardboard first. Number 1, DeBarge. Berry Gordy, the man who signed Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, the Jackson 5, reportedly said that Bobby DeBarge was the most talented artist he had ever signed in his career, more talented than any of them. And Bobby DeBarge died of AIDS-related illness on August 16, 1995. He was 39 years old. DeBarge came from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Bunny, Elle, James, Mark, Randy, siblings who grew up in a home defined by abuse and instability, who found music the way some people find oxygen. They learned instruments by ear, practiced harmonizing in the house, found in the music a reason to hold together when everything else was pulling them apart. I Like It in 1982. Time Will Reveal in 1983. Rhythm of the Night in 1985, number 1 R&B, number 3 pop, the biggest moment they ever had. Dear, a song recorded for a film soundtrack that became one of the defining sounds of an entire decade. But Motown was already making a different plan. As Rhythm of the Night climbed the charts, the label was maneuvering Elle toward a solo career. His mother, Ederline, said later, Elle being set apart caused each one of them to have bad feelings. The label dropped the family group and signed Elle and Bunny separately. The others, James, Mark, Randy, were left behind. And what happened in the years that followed for the family, the label walked away from? Drug addiction, arrests, prison time. Bobby died at 39. James married Janet Jackson in 1984, and the marriage was annulled within a year. Elle battled addiction for decades. Bobby and Chico were arrested for drug trafficking in 1988 and sentenced to federal prison. Chico DeBarge once told an interviewer what happened to his family. They were treated as product, not people. That's the thing that stays, because you can still hear the music. And every time it plays, that's the truth it carries.